is how that market recovers. But when the Fed prints, they create an artificial bubble and they extend the size of that bubble, like we saw with the housing bubble. And during that time, a lot of people make a lot of money. The economy's great. We actually saw the same thing with the internet bubble. That was the same thing. Alan Greenspan printed a lot of money and created a lot of misallocation of resources. And then we saw a short and quick recession. The only good thing was what Alan Greenspan didn't print a lot of money to get us out of that recession. And so we didn't get a continuation of the misallocation of resources, and we got a little bit of deflation, and we got a relatively quick recovery. Ben Bernanke, the chairman of the Fed today, he did his doctoral thesis on the Great Depression. He studied the Great Depression for years, and he came across the conclusion, and this is what his doctoral thesis states, that if the banks' credit never dried up, the Great Depression could have been avoided. Meaning, it was the inability for people to borrow money at a relatively low interest rate that caused the Great Depression. So that's what this man really believes. He is a macroeconomist. He is a Keynesian economist. He believes that as long as we keep the juices flowing, or the animal spirits, as Keynes would say, moving, then we can avoid the Depression. Has it worked? I've got some great quotes that I actually printed out here from Alan Greenspan I'd like to share with you. Let's see what we got here. We got some goodies. Oh, that's horrible. What a horrible way to do a blog here. But anyway, I'll share them with you another time. But anyway, in 2005, Ben Bernanke said things like, the housing market has gone up 25% and is still very strong, and basically no end in sight. These are what our macroeconomists and Keynesian economists bring to us. He made so many ridiculous statements about the health of the economy right before the housing collapse that to me it shows beyond a shadow of a doubt this man doesn't understand Austrian economics, or doesn't understand economics completely. He's never studied Austrian economics. Yet the Austrians were saying all along, hey, you're printing too much money, you're going to cause a problem here, you're bringing the bubble up too high, there's got to be a bust. The Fed printing money is the root cause for what you're seeing. Now the problem is, the way out of a bust, or the way out of a recession or depression, is deflation. Deflation brings down the cost of wages, it brings down the cost of goods. Deflation is caused by people not having purchasing power. We don't buy goods, prices fall, demand falls, prices fall, wages fall. But on the other hand, what that does for your savings is when you have deflation and prices are falling. And if you have $100 in the bank and prices fall in half, what just happened to your $100? It just became twice as valuable. And so for all the companies that do have some capital, and for people that have 401k or some savings, they can now become the entrepreneur. They can start a business. They become capital rich because their capital becomes worth more. And so you need that deflationary period to take you out of a recession. And the problem is, Ben Bernanke and all of his predecessors and all the Keynesian economists are scared to death of deflation. So what they do to avoid deflation is they print money. When you print money, you add to the monetary supply without increasing the means of production, and you get inflation. So if you print money and there's $2 out there for every one that was out there previously, your money becomes worth half as much. It's completely logical. They know this. They know they cause inflation. To them, inflation is a good thing. The problem is, if you've got $100,000 in your 401k that you wanted to retire on, and Ben Bernanke increases the monetary supply by double. So basically, in effect, he cuts the value of your money in half. What just happened to your $100,000 in your 401k? He just literally taxed you 50% of your money without ever increasing your tax rate by printing money. That's the problem with inflation and the Keynesian philosophy and the macroeconomists and what they're doing to us. They're literally stealing our money without ever increasing a tax rate, without ever passing a bill. The Fed operates completely independent of the government. It is not a government entity. And they have the ability to counterfeit money and put it into our society. They have the ability to buy government debt. They have the ability to buy bonds. Think about that. They can literally print money. Now they don't even have to physically print it. They just push buttons now because it's all done electronically. So they can literally pull money out of thin air and lend it to banks, get it out into society to artificially drop the interest rate below the free market without anybody passing a bill, without any government oversight, and literally destroy our economy. And the worst part is they think they're doing the right thing. I mean, I don't think of Ben Bernanke as an evil man. He's not. He just doesn't know. He doesn't understand. And that's why I'm doing this blog. People need to know. They need to know what the Fed is. They need to know how it's destroying our economy. We need a deflationary period to repair this. We need the Fed to stop printing money. There's one politician out there, Ron Paul, that's going after the Fed. I don't like to talk specific politics too much, but I'm begging people to support the one libertarian out there, Ron Paul. You constantly hear him talking about the Fed and them printing, and it's our debt today is really a result of the Fed because they buy government debt, so it gives the government the ability to always have a means to borrow more. So when China dries up and everybody will stop lending the U.S. money, guess what they're going to do? They can always sell it to the Fed. So when you hear Ron Paul, and he kind of sounds like a kook to some people, always talking about the Fed, he's dead nuts on. He's absolutely right. And we need to listen to him. You need to study the Austrian perspective. If people don't understand this, if our populace doesn't understand this, we can't expect our politicians to. We're not going to be able to fix this thing. So I know this is a dry subject. Talking about how the fucking Fed, gets their money into society is not the most interesting thing to talk about. I don't really want to talk about it. But if we don't worry about this, how the hell are we going to get the right politicians in to worry about this? It's not their fault. It's not the people in Washington's fault. It's our fault. It's your fault. It's my fault. If we don't educate ourselves to Austrian economics, which is the truth, and I'm going to go into a further blog to explain how I know the Austrian perspective is the truth. And when I say Austrian economics, I don't mean this is what they're practicing in Austria right now. It's called Austrian economics because the Ludwig von Mises was Austrian, and some of the founders of this school of economic thought came from Austria. It's not that it's what they're practicing there, and so it's become known as Austrian economics or the Austrian perspective. But we need to educate ourselves to this. And if we don't, we can't expect them to. You know what I mean? If we don't know the truth, they're not going to learn the truth. There's some politicians out there that give you little hints of it. They talk about business cycles, but for the most part, they're completely ignorant of it. Educate yourself. Read a great book if you want to learn the Austrian perspective. A great book to start with is called Man, Economy, and State by Murray Rothbard. It's on a very layman's level, so an idiot like me can understand it. I'm not any smarter than anybody else. The big difference between me and probably a lot of people is I have 6 kids. 6 kids that I gotta make sure America is around for. And if we don't, it's not gonna be. So please, if you want to learn a little bit about this, I think you can even get the book for free. If you go on the Mises website, I think there's some links, or if you type in Man, Economy, and State for free or something on your web browser, and I guarantee there's a link to it. It's an easy read to understand. He explains everything at the most basic level. And as the book goes on, it maybe gets a little more complicated, but it's a great place to start to kind of understand Austrian economics. And I hope you keep tuning in. If it just means tuning into